Weather Center 4, keeping you ahead of the storm.
Next Monday, live from Taipei, it's the 1988 Miss Universe pageant. Alan Thicke and Tracy Scoggins host, as 66 of the world's most beautiful women compete for the crown. Don't miss this night of suspense, glamour, and entertainment, where you'll meet the breathtaking contestants, the current Miss Universe, and get a feel for this land of exotic mystery. Find out if our own Miss USA wins.
Hi, I'm Courtney Gibbs, Miss USA, and I'll see you there.
Live next Monday at 9 on CBS.
This is CBS.
Up next on the 10 p.m. report, officials released the blood alcohol level of this man when his pickup truck hit a school bus.
A Minnetonka house tonight, the center of a prostitution probe involving a woman in her 70s.
Nicotine. Is it like heroin or cocaine?
In Dimension, the work the county does to piece together what caused a death.
And in Teach Your Children, we test a reporter, sending him back to retake a college entrance exam.
I'm Pat Miles.
And I'm Don Shelby. The 10 p.m. report is next.
This is the imported Pontiac Le Mans. Check it out. Its quality and dependability are backed by a powertrain warranty far longer than anything on Toyota, Hyundai, even Honda. Get on the Pontiac and ride. And now, qualified first-time new car buyers can get $600 cash back, meaning Le Mans can be yours for just $57.99. Get on your Pontiac. Rebuild excitement.
I remember when my kid brother Ronnie took my favorite flavored popsicle pop and left me holding an empty box. Brothers.
My wife and I met at the Chicago World's Fair, right in front of a popsicle truck.
And I was on a date with your best friend. I can't imagine what my girls think of me posing in my first bikini, clutching a popsicle pop. There's my answer.
The original fun and flavor of popsicle, fudgesicle, and creamsicle brand treats, just as you always remembered.
You know why the Burger Board asked you here today, Mr. Cole?
Yes.
You've been a loyal burger eater, and now?
I prefer Arby's roast beef.
Speak up, Mr. Cole.
Arby's roast beef. I prefer its lean, tender, slow-roasted flavor.
You know, burgers are a national institution, Mr. Cole.
It's just that I made a choice. I chose Arby's.
That'll be all, Mr. Cole.
Do you suppose there are others out there like him?
The revolution is underway. Taste the Arby's difference.
Could it be this Minnetonka neighborhood is home to a house of ill repute run by a woman in her 70s? Police are investigating.
WCCO Television presents Pat Miles, Don Shelby, Mike Fairborn, and Mark Rosen. This is the 10 p.m. report.
Good evening, everyone. Some people are calling it the case of the Minnetonka Madam.
Police in that western suburb are investigating allegations that a 73-year-old woman is running a house of prostitution. Mike Walshert has the story.
11 days ago, police executed search warrants at the woman's home on Quiet Milbert Road. They seized financial records, boxes of condoms, a sexual device, and 24 X-rated movies on video cassette. The search warrant application says the woman runs a hair salon in her home, but supplements her income arranging prostitution, mostly on Tuesdays and Thursdays. Some neighbors say they've been suspicious of all the cars pulling up in front of this house, and they say they've wondered why so many young women and men were arriving and leaving at all hours of the day.
Well, it bothered me with having the kids around and having the people come and go. I just never figured it would happen in this neighborhood. It seemed kind of a trusting neighborhood.
It shock you?
Yeah.
Others add that the woman often went door to door collecting for the Cancer Society and seemed to be a good neighbor.
Yeah, she had bringing food to neighbors when people had babies or somebody had passed away, or certain occasions she has done things for different neighbors in the area here.
Police say they're investigating possible felony charges against the woman, and they say they can't remember a house of prostitution operating in their suburb for many years. I'm Mike Walshert, WCCO Television News, Minnetonka.
We did contact the woman in order to ask about the police investigation, but she refused to speak with us.
Tonight, a tragedy discovered in Maplewood. Police found the bodies of a 53-year-old man and his 50-year-old wife. She was a teacher at Madeline Weaver Elementary School. Police believe the man killed his wife, then committed suicide. The principal of the school contacted police today, saying he was concerned because the woman had not been to work since last Monday. Authorities are still investigating a motive for the apparent murder-suicide. A Minneapolis man accused of murdering 2 people last week has now been formally charged. Victor Sanford faces 4 counts of second-degree murder in the deaths of a pregnant woman and another man. It happened on Friday at a home at 53rd and Bloomington.
Tonight, we know why a pickup truck was speeding down the wrong way late Saturday night on a Kentucky interstate, why it collided with a school bus full of teenagers. 34-year-old Larry Mahoney was the truck driver, and today authorities discovered his blood alcohol level at the time of the accident was 0.24, 2.5 times the legal limit in Kentucky. The bus burst into flames, 27 people killed, burned beyond recognition. Today, 27 counts of murder filed against Mahoney, and the prosecutor is calling for the death penalty. In 1984, Larry Mahoney was fined for driving while intoxicated.
Governor Rudy Perpich wants to spend another $500 million to make Minnesota highways safer. Today, while on a helicopter tour of various highway construction projects, the governor proposed transferring $500 million in excise taxes to the highway fund. The state is already reaping the benefits of the higher gasoline tax. 16 highway projects counseled earlier have been restored, and along with them, several hundred jobs.
If you are a smoker and you say you can't quit, today the federal government told you why. Surgeon General C. Everett Koop in a 618-page report today estimated that 320,000 Americans die each year because of cigarette smoking. He called for stricter warnings on packages in an effort to stop people from ever picking up the habit. But the statement that caused the most stir is that tobacco is addictive, like heroin and cocaine. Health and Science reporter Tony Vigneri has more.
The culprit is nicotine, a drug the Surgeon General says people get hooked on. Cal Scheidegger knows too well.
I started looking in every ashtray in the house to find butts. Actually smoking the butts of the cigarettes in a pipe in order to get enough to quell the craving.
Scheidegger was able to stop smoking. He also went through treatment for alcohol and says the two addictions are similar.
There were the same symptoms, the increase in tolerance, the increase in frequency, the greater the dependency, the same obsession.
The Surgeon General says nicotine possesses some of the same characteristics which make heroin and cocaine addictive. It gets into the blood and the craving increases. A person may not realize they are addicted until they try to stop.
When one has been using cigarettes for a long time, or tobacco and nicotine-containing substances, and one stops using it, then they'll start to experience withdrawal symptoms, causing them to seek the nicotine more in order to relieve the withdrawal symptoms.
But officials with the Tobacco Institute disagree with the Surgeon General's findings. The Institute's position is that nicotine is not addictive, and that anti-tobacco zeal has overtaken common sense and good judgment. Tony Vigneri, WCCO Television News.
Here's a warning. If your garbage is out at the curb right now, it can be used against you. Today, the U.S. Supreme Court ruled that police don't need a search warrant to poke through your garbage that's been put out for collection. The High Court reinstated drug charges against 2 Californians who were arrested after authorities searched their trash for drug paraphernalia.
Yet another shakeup at the Justice Department, which has already been rocked by allegations against Attorney General Edwin Meese. Today it was learned that Meese has fired the department's main spokesman, Terry Eastland, because Eastland did not defend him strongly enough. That ouster then led to Meese's top speechwriter, Bill Shambra, turning in his resignation today as a protest to Eastland's treatment. After months of flying on a wing and a prayer, evangelist Pat Robertson dropped his bid for the presidency today. Robertson gave the nod to Republican George Bush, who already has the nomination sewed up anyway. Robertson said he won't give up, though, his advocacy of morality and conservative values.
WCCO television sportscaster Mark Rosen has announced his decision. July 15th, he will end his radio days with KQRS. 6 months later, Mark Rosen will join the team at WCCO AM Radio. We'll talk to Mark about that decision later on in sports.
I woke up this morning, didn't know what to do. Should I meet with my board of directors or just hang out by the pool? Since I moved to the cliffs, A maid cleans up my place. Some guy washes my Mercedes-Benz while a lady pampers my face. Whoa, it's so hard living here at the cliffs. I've got to having it all blue.
545-2500.
If I were in charge of CarX, I'd invent the best guarantee in the business.
The new CarX 110% satisfaction guarantee.
You can't beat the best.
Your Greater Metropolitan Pontiac dealers dare you to compare Grand Prix SE versus Acura Legend Coupe. Both feature V6, four-wheel disc brakes, air, cruise, power front bucket seats. But Grand Prix SE has a longer wheelbase, longer powertrain warranty, Motor Trend's coveted Car of the Year trophy, and still it's sticker priced an incredible $9,000 less. Compare. See your Greater Metropolitan Pontiac dealers and see why Pontiac outsells every import car line year after year.
I'm Colleen Needles. Each day, we send our children off to school, where they'll spend most of their growing years. But what happens after they set foot behind the schoolhouse door? School has changed, and so have the pressures being placed on students. All this week, join us for Teach Your Children, a special look at Minnesota education. From drugs and peer pressure to honors classes and high-tech computers, we'll find out what all parents need to know about their child's education on the 10 p.m. Report, Channel 4.
Traffic is a battle. We provide the air cover. For John Lundell and Dean Spratt on traffic, turn to WCCO Radio 830.
Tonight in Dimension, a standardized test for getting into college, the SAT. One of our reporters goes back to take it.
But first tonight, when a death is questionable, it is their job to find answers. A look inside the Hennepin County Medical Examiner's Office.
The examiner's office has recently been caught up in a controversy. You may recall the Ostlund case. Janet Ostlund of Robbinsdale found guilty of shaking her 2-month-old daughter to death. Her conviction based on the ruling of the examiner's office. But outside experts said the ruling was wrong, that the baby died in a fall. It's an ongoing controversy, with county commissioners calling for an outside investigation. Now, throughout this, there have been questions about how people in the medical examiner's office go about doing their jobs. Tonight, we'll report on that, with a warning that you consider the subject matter involved in this story not intended to shock, but to inform. Photographer Gary Feblowitz, researcher Pat Weiland, and Colleen Needles have this report.
609, clear, please ahead. No contact.
In many ways, it is like a puzzle, one that begins here. The scene of a death, a crime, a suicide, or an accident. An investigator from the medical examiner's office works side by side with police.
What we're trying to do is find as much information that the deceased, if you will, can tell us about what happened, when it happened, how it happened, who may have been there when it happened.
This case appears to be a suicide. Almost 3,000 cases passed through these doors last year, each one different, each with questions, the beginning of a process in search of the answers.
Okay, the body is then brought out here on the cart from the truck and transferred to one of the carts in here. Okay, this is our cooler, and this is where the bodies are stored after they're processed.
The second piece of the puzzle, an X-ray.
For positive identification.
In a county of more than 1 million people, some die nameless. It is the medical examiner's job to find their identity. They rarely fail.
Another method of identification that skull films can be used for is people's frontal sinuses are unique.
Yeah, it is like solving puzzles. Left lung is 610.
The autopsy of a young drowning victim. In good health, there is no apparent reason why she drowned. The medical examiners look for clues.
In the few hours that you have custody of the body and do your investigation, you have to answer all the questions that are going to come up at a later point in time. The problem is you don't know what the questions are going to be at the time you do the case.
For the people who do this work, the autopsy is often the most interesting.
Some is very scientific, and some of it really is an art based on science.
You have to forget that that's someone who has a family that's really upset. Because if every day we sat down here and thought, oh, this could be me, this could be my daughter, this could be my son, I mean, we would be debilitated. We wouldn't be able to do our job.
It is also a job under intense scrutiny. The work done here becomes fact in a court of law, a legal system that works best when the results are in black and white. Expectations in forensic science are high.
Or that sometimes we just don't find a cause of death, and people just can't believe that. I mean, Quincy always found a cause of death. You know, why can't we?
There's been some hemorrhage into the brain.
Clues in a microscopic cell. The next step in finding answers. Samples from the autopsy are sent to hospital labs. They provide the final answers, ones that can help a family reconcile a death.
I think lots of times you can help families. You know, you can say your dad died of a heart attack at 47, and this is very important for you to know because it means you have a high risk of heart disease.
Finally, a death certificate is signed, pulling together the many pieces of the puzzle, solving a case, helping to better understand the final chapter. Colleen Needles, WCCO Television News.
About 1 out of 3 people who die in Hennepin County end up being taken to the medical examiner's office, which is, by the way, located in the same complex with the Hennepin County Medical Center.
Tonight in Teach Your Children, the SAT, one of 2 tests high school students take, more or less as a college entrance exam. Now consider this. At the College of St. Thomas, an SAT test score counts just as much for a student as high school grades. The college has some pretty hard and fast rules, too, that someone testing at 1,200 makes it in, and someone testing under 800 will not. Over the years, score averages have stayed about the same, with students doing better on math than verbal. Alan Cox of our staff went back to take the test again, and he found some changes in strategy and his mood.
16 years after taking the test the first time, the fears come back to me. What if all my number 2 pencils break? What if I accidentally turn to the wrong page of the test book and the teacher kicks me out? What if I forget everything I ever learned? For me, it will be over in 3 hours. For the other kids, the younger kids, it can be much more important. It can decide their college.
I have high hopes. Right now, that's what they're waiting for, my test results, and that will decide if I get accepted or not.
To me, the test given in these classrooms wasn't that much different from the one in the early 70s. What is different is the preparation. Years of lawsuits and legislation have persuaded the test makers to be much more helpful. They issue booklets containing sample tests, hints on how to handle questions, even an admission that some forms of preparation can raise scores, and preparation is big business. Kaplan Educational Systems is one of several companies that offer prep courses. $495 covers up to a year of lectures and materials.
To take such an important test, no one would run a marathon without first training. Why take a marathon of a test without first being prepared?
What can we infer?
Instructors say they teach 2 parts basic skills to 1 part test strategies. Here's a question with a little of both. Which is greater? You could try to complete the addition, figure out the lowest common denominators. That's a good skill, but it's bad strategy. Instead, you should notice that this fraction is larger than this one, and this fraction is larger than this one. So the left side has to be the greater. Schools teach math skills. Increasingly, they're teaching test strategy.
Trends come and go in education, and in the last couple of years, there has been a trend for kids to get more help in test preparation.
Burnsville High offers lectures and computer software for students who want extra practice.
I'm good in math, and that's no problem for me, but my verbal really brings my scores down. And I need to get that higher to get accepted into some colleges.
Well, it seems like that's not the best way that it could be done, you know, but there really isn't any other.
One of the criticisms of these tests is that they're geared toward affluent white suburban education. Some inner-city schools are trying to keep up. St. Paul Humboldt keeps a collection of prep books. In the fall, it has 20 hours of night classes on college tests.
We haven't historically scored as well as we would like to. Our kids have to be exposed to a greater number of things, and this is one way that we do it.
Colleges say tests are the only way to judge students from different high schools. Critics say it's unfair to boil a decade of classwork into a weekend morning, and now the long wait for the scores.
The test is pretty fair, especially since they offer it a number of times.
So you're prepared to take it again if you don't like what you get in the score?
Yes, that's true.
I took a practice test last night, and I don't think I did quite as well today, just kind of in the test atmosphere.
As for myself, I felt nervous during the test too. I thought the verbal questions were easy, but I seem to have forgotten a lot about math. Won't have my scores for another 5 weeks, but for now it seems that whatever dream I had of leaving television to attend MIT is over. Alan Cox, WCCO Television News.
And now a correction from an education report last week saying that Minnesota had the highest number of teen suicides. We should have said the state had one of the highest teen suicide increases, 200% in fact, in the last 2 years.
All right, now for our test questions, we're going to return to Alan Cox for a look at 2 of the tougher SAT questions he saw.
The first question is a math comparison. If x squared equals 9 and y squared equals 16, which is larger, x or y? The possible answers are x is larger, y is larger, x equals y, or the answer can't be determined. The other question is one of the more difficult from the math sections. It has to do with the shaded area between these 2 circles. Using 2 straight lines, what's the maximum number of shaded sections you can draw? Is it 2 sections, 3, 4, 5, or 6? Once again, using 2 straight lines, what's the maximum number of shaded sections you can draw? I hope you have better luck on these than I did, and we'll have the answers later in the broadcast.
Big Bear means big anniversary sales savings. Precision Products 10 cubic foot heavy duty dump cart features easy dumping from tractor seat, now $96.88. Union Poly Wheelbarrow features long lasting tray, 5 3/4 cubic foot capacity, only $54.99. Haviland Motor Oil protects vital engine parts under extreme heat and stress. 10W30 or 10W40, value priced at 59 cents a quart after rebate. Save at the Big Bear nearest you.
Of all the reasons you come into a bank, maybe you've never come in for insurance, discount brokerage services, investments, or retirement planning. Or maybe you just never had someone open the options up to you. Come into your first bank. We'll show you how to draw more out of a bank than just money.
Nobody can tell you what a complete and thorough brake job will cost until they inspect your car. Nobody. But some places promise low prices without making it clear what it includes. Midas makes it clear. For $49, Midas replaces your brake shoes or pads, turns drums or rotors, inspects front wheel bearings and front grease seals.
See your Twin Cities Midas dealer for his $49 brake special. See your Midas dealer for details.
Daybreak in Hastings.